what was going on, what was wrong. About this time, I started getting severe diarrhea every day. This is embarrassing to admit to the internet at large, but here it is. When I was taking all of this ibuprofen, I was getting diarrhea every day. And, I had stopped the ibuprofen for a while when I saw the neurologist. I was in too much pain. I couldn't not take it. So I took the amitriptyline and I took the ibuprofen, right? I took it all because I was desperate for the pain to stop so that I could be a mom, so that I could work my job, right? And at the time, I was taking mega doses of iron because of the iron deficiency. I didn't want to have to keep getting iron infusions because they were expensive and we were already spending too much on my healthcare. And so I was having diarrhea every day, and it was black because when you're taking huge doses of iron, it goes through your stomach and your stool comes out blackish. And what I didn't know at the time was that black liquid diarrhea is a huge red flag for GI bleeding, right? You get ulcers throughout your stomach, throughout your intestines, and you start losing all of the iron that you're putting in. I doubled my iron, the iron intake that I was having. I went up to like 600 milligrams of iron every day, and my condition just kept getting worse because now I was iron deficient, and I was on ibuprofen for the pain. And there was this other thing, this mysterious illness thing that was making me sick. And yeah, so adding GI bleeding on top, it wasn't great. It wasn't great, but my doctors weren't helping me. They weren't helping me find what was wrong. And I went to go at that time to see a hematologist to try to figure out what was going on, like with my blood and why my iron kept dropping. Of course, it was because I was losing a massive amount of blood through my GI system. She said, there's, I can't find anything. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. She couldn't find anything wrong. I was taking a B vitamin, like a B complex at the time. And she did a bunch of testing and she called to tell me, hey, your, vitamin B12, which I knew nothing about at the time. She said, your vitamin B12 is a little high. At the time, it was 813, I think it's picograms per milliliter. And she said, it's a little high. So I want you to stop your B complex. You don't need it anymore. Stop taking that. And I did. I stopped taking it. I was still taking a women's 1-a-day multivitamin because I was still trying to breastfeed my baby. And they say you need to be on a women's 1-a-day with folic acid when you're breastfeeding. So I was. And at this point, I was starting to get really scared. In May of 2024, I ended up at the ER because my diarrhea had become so severe that I was getting dehydrated. I felt like I couldn't really eat anything because I was having severe stomach pain. Shocker. And I went into the ER. I told them this. They checked all of my labs and my hemoglobin was normal. So they said, no, it's not a GI bleed. You're fine. You can go. And I was like, no, please. Can you test my stool to see if there's blood? Please, can you test it? And the nurse in the ER kind of like rolled their eyes and was like, okay, sure, whatever, here's the thing, see if you can, provide a stool sample. So I did. And the nurse, takes the thing and goes, oh my God, this is like black. And I'm like, yes, I told you that. And, the nurse tested the stool sample. They have this little thing called a FOBT, a fecal occult blood test. And of course, it was positive. It was strongly positive. I was bleeding out through my GI system. My hemoglobin, while I was there for like 2 hours, went from 14 to 13. And, it was actively dropping. But they said, your hemoglobin's still normal. You can go, but you should follow up with GI. So they set me up with an appointment with a GI specialist. And I went to go see the GI specialist, and I thought, this is it. I have found it. They're gonna fix me, and I'm gonna be a super mom, and I'm gonna be great at work, and all of my dreams are gonna come true, right? I did a bunch of research. I found out that ulcers, especially if they're really bad, they can cause radiating pain into your back. And I was like, oh, eureka, I have found it. I have an ulcer. It's really bad. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm dying. I might be bleeding out, right? I was panicked because there was something really wrong and everyone kept telling me everything's normal. I ended up going in for a full GI workup. I was 30, but was I 33 at the time? And I had to have an EGD, which is where they put you out and they put a scope down your throat, right? And they look into your stomach and the first part of your intestines, and they look for ulcer bleeding. And so they put me under, and I remember waking up from that and the doctor saying, congratulations, there is nothing wrong with you. And I freaked out. I bawled. I was sobbing here in this room with this poor doctor. He probably thought I was a nutcase. Probably everyone did at the time. And, you know, I was sobbing because these doctors kept telling me there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. But there was very clearly something wrong, right? So they were like, okay, we will schedule you for a colonoscopy. Maybe you have bleeding that's in the lower GI tract. So I did the colonoscopy prep, which is horrible. And if you're someone who's older or someone who's been through this, you know that you have to drink like a gallon of laxative and then you poop your brains out for like 12 hours. And then you go in and you get put under and you get a, you know, camera put up your rectum. And oh my gosh, it was humiliating. It was humiliating for me. And I woke up from the colonoscopy and they said, congratulations, there is nothing wrong. And at that point, I was just like, okay, thank you for your time, right? I went back into the GI specialist a week later and I said, look, there is something wrong. It has got to be in my small intestine. It is a small intestinal bleed. You can't see that with the EGD. You can't see that with the colonoscopy. It's got to be that. I'm bleeding somewhere. So they were like, okay, we'll do this expensive test called a pill cam. You swallow this pill. It's a camera. It's actually really awesome, amazing technology. It goes through your whole digestive system and it takes pictures of everything. And they said, congratulations, there's nothing wrong. And at that point, I was devastated. I didn't know where to go next. I didn't know what to do. My GI system was a mess. I was having diarrhea all the time, 100% of the time. I never had digested food coming through me. I wasn't getting any nutrients anymore. I was starving and I was starting to lose really a lot of weight. And then I started doing a ton of research. I was like, no, I'm going to figure this out. I'm not just going to die. You know, my kids need me. I have 3 kids. They already don't have a mother because I'm too sick to mother them, but I will figure this out. And I found out about this condition called SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And I said, this is it. I have SIBO. I have to have SIBO. This is it. And I told my doctor. They said, that's kind of a niche thing. It's kind of not a real thing. If you really want, we can test you for it. But like, that's getting into kind of like integrative medicine. It's not really, are you sure you're not depressed? And, you know, it's horrible. So I purchased on my own, there's a breath test that you can get. It's called Trio Smart. And I did the breath test from home. It was expensive, but I was determined to figure out what was wrong, even if my doctors would not do it. So I got the breath test, I took it, and it was positive. And I was like, oh my God, I have SIBO. SIBO is the thing. SIBO is what's killing me. This is the root of my chronic illness. I took it to my doctor. My doctor looked at it. He saw that it's kind of a validated test. He saw that it's not necessarily a niche thing. It's a real thing. And he said, okay, you have bad bacteria growing in your small intestine, and we need to kill it in order for you to have, you know, healthy digestion again. And so I got a prescription for something called metronidazole. It's an antibiotic. It's very strong. It was horrible for me while I was on it, and it didn't work. So the first time it didn't work. We did another round of it to see if we could get it to go away. And my PCP was really trying. He was really trying to help me. And so I did another course of the metronidazole and still nothing. I was still really sick, right? I was having diarrhea every day. So I did a bunch of research and I said, okay, you know, what can I do? What can I do? There's another, you know, antibiotic that you can try. It's called rifaximin, but my insurance wouldn't cover it. So I said, fine, I'm going to try this all liquid diet. It's called the elemental diet. It's basically what they put in feeding tubes for people with very severe GI problems that they can't fix otherwise. I was desperate. So I had to ask my family for help to pay for this extremely expensive liquid diet. And it came and I got it. And I had only these shakes. It's everything nutritionally that your body needs in a shake, and it tastes absolutely disgusting. And you're not allowed to supplement anything else while you're taking the shakes. You just take the shakes. It's the only thing you put in your body for the amount of time that you are on the elemental diet. And so I did that. And after 3 weeks of this liquid diet, I was probably getting 500 calories a day. It burned so bad when I drank it. It burned like the devil, but I just kept going because I am stubborn as heck. And by the end of 3 weeks, finally, I started having some more normal digestion. I was like, oh my God, yay. I've killed my SIBO. This is it. Now I'm going to go back to my normal life. And let's see. And then I started reintroducing normal foods. A lot of foods immediately made the diarrhea come back. That can be kind of normal when you've only been on a liquid diet for a long time. Introducing foods can be tough. And this was when I started getting weird allergic reactions to things. I have never had food allergies before in my life. I've never been allergic to anything. I'm not allergic to anything. But certain things either made the diarrhea way worse, or, here's a weird thing, made the spinal pain significantly worse. My spine would burn so bad when I would eat certain things. And I spent weeks logging. I would write down, what did I eat? What are my symptoms? I would pore over this. I was obsessive about trying to figure out what I was eating was contributing to all of these symptoms. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, here are my safe foods. Rice, plain rice, and gluten-free chicken nuggets, or plain meat. But I'm not a plain meat person. Like, I couldn't just eat plain meat. So I went for gluten-free chicken nuggets. And I spent probably 6 weeks eating only gluten-free chicken nuggets. Seriously, because it was the only thing that could get me through the day and get me enough calories that I was not losing weight. I had lost probably 60 pounds by this time. It was massive weight loss. It was scary, and it was scaring my doctor too, but he didn't know what to do. This is when he started saying, I think you might need more help than I can give you. And that's fine. I love when doctors say that because that's honest, and it's not saying there's nothing wrong with you. He was saying, there's something wrong with you, but I don't know what it is, and I can't figure it out. And I respected that. I appreciated that. He said, look, I think you might need to go to Mayo Clinic or Cleveland Clinic to get the help that you need. And I was like, no. I have allergies all of a sudden. I've learned about this condition. It's called MCAS, right? And it's like this mast cell problem. It's this problem with histamine in your body. Your body can't get rid of histamine. You start, having reactions to all kinds of things. And I was convinced, I knew that it was mast cell activation syndrome. I bought this book about it, and I listened to it, and I heard myself in all of these patients that the doctor was talking about in his book, and I thought for sure it was that. And I brought it to my doctor, and I was like, look, there's, mast cell activation syndrome, it's this. And my doctor was like, look, this is outside of my scope. I can't help you with this. You need to get a specialist who can actually help you. And it was frustrating, but again, I appreciated that. And I don't know. And at that point I was researching, I was trying to figure out, where do I go from here? How can I get the help that I need? This was the end of 2024. And this was the time in my life where I was at my low point. And I know that there are other people who are living in this low point because they've messaged me. Hundreds of them have messaged me in the last couple of days. And so here's what happened. It was October of 2024. And I went to the ER with my husband. I was like, look, we're going to the ER. The ER is going to help me. I'm dying. And we're going to go to the emergency room, and they are going to fix me. They're going to figure it out. And it was because I couldn't get out of bed. I had mustered up the strength for the first time in probably a week to take a shower. And I got into the shower, and my vision was so blurry, and there were just like weird things like floating about in my vision. I went to open the shampoo bottle. I remember I tried 3 times, and my hands were shaking so bad. I dropped the shampoo a few times, and that's when I collapsed in the shower and sobbed. And I was like, we're going to the ER. I can't, I'm dying. My body is shutting down. This is not normal. And we went to the ER, and it was a local ER. It wasn't University of Michigan. It was the one in Ypsilanti, St. Joe's, Trinity, whatever. And I was convinced that this was it. They were going to find my cancer. They were going to find whatever it was that was killing me. And they didn't even run any real tests. They took a little bit of blood. I explained that I had been doing this elemental diet. They said, well, there's nothing wrong with you. I was sobbing in the ER. They said, you really need to be screened for depression. And they said, the only thing that's weird is that your vitamin B12 level has come back high, above the range of normal, high. It was 1,018, picograms per milliliter. It's a little high. It's higher than the top range. And at this time, I was not taking any supplements because I was either eating just gluten-free chicken nuggets, or I was drinking the elemental diet shakes, or I was doing some combination. And I told them that. I said, I'm not taking any supplements. The only thing I'm having is this physician's elemental diet, and it's basically what goes in a tube feed. But they had never heard of it. They were like, oh, you're on some special diet? Okay, great. Stop that. It's that. You've got B12 toxicity, right? You are poisoning yourself with B12. And I was like, no, please. It's not that. I'm dying, please. And they probably rolled their eyes. They probably went in the back and made fun of me and said, oh, here's another, Munchausen's case. She's here for attention. And they said, we're going to discharge you. And, if you disagree with that, then you can go to another hospital. And I remember my husband basically carrying me back to the car, and he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, maybe we should go to U of M because they're better. And he was like, I will take you there, but they are not going to cover this under our insurance because you were just dismissed from a hospital and, discharged from a hospital, and there's nothing wrong. And I said, okay, just take me to psych. Just take me to the psych ward because I am so crazy that I'm manifesting physical symptoms. And I really thought that I was crazy. My husband helped me there for a while and just let me sob. And he told me something I'll never forget. He said, I believe you. He said, I know you're not crazy. I've watched you. I've seen the symptoms. It's not in your head. It's real. And we will find out what's wrong. I know there are a lot of people who are in the dark place where I went that day. And they've been told so many times that it's depression, it's anxiety, it's in your head. And you have these crazy symptoms and you can't get out of bed. You physically can't get out of bed. You're shaking too hard. You have too much pain. You can't create that much pain in your head. You can't, okay? If you are in that much pain, if you are in the dark place, right? It's not in your head, okay? It's real. I, at that point, said, screw it. We can sell our house. We can sell everything. We're going to go to a functional medicine provider, which is out of pocket, and we'll find one and they will help us figure it out. I didn't believe in functional medicine at the time. I thought it was stupid. I thought they were going to have me do some parasite cleanse or something and that I was going to waste my money and still be sick. I was convinced that's what was going to happen. And so I broke down and I made an appointment with a functional medicine provider locally. I just picked one. I asked on Facebook, who knows of a functional doctor, in Ann Arbor who can help because I need help. I can't, my doctors aren't helping me and I'm dying. And someone suggested a name and I threw a dart at it and I picked someone, right? I picked anyone, but I was desperate. I would have, I could have gone there, and if they said, well, let's start with a $10,000 cleanse, I would have said, okay. They didn't. They, first focused on getting more nutrition into my body, and that was great. They helped me find a few foods that I could eat. They started me on a probiotic. They started me on a medicine called low-dose naltrexone, which is still being studied. It actually helped with the pain. It was one of the few things that was on par with ibuprofen in terms of how much it helped the pain. And I still don't know why low-dose naltrexone helps. It doesn't make sense to me. I need to do more research into how it works. I think it has to do with inflammation in the body. Anyway, I talked to the functional doctor about MCAS. I said, maybe I have MCAS. I found this thing. She said, MCAS is real. That's a real thing. Some people have it. There's a med called cromolyn we can try. And I tried cromolyn, and it didn't help. It didn't do anything, right? And so, at my second visit with them, I told them, all of my recent labs are normal. Everything's normal, except for my stupid vitamin B12 keeps going up, and I'm not taking vitamin B12. Now it's over 2,000, and I'm not taking it. And my functional doctor looked at me for a little bit, and she said, you know what? I think you need to take vitamin B12 injections. And I thought she was bananas. I was like, look, the ER told me that I have B12 toxicity. I need to get this stuff out of my system, not start injecting it into my body. But I was desperate, right? I was like, this person has gone to med school. I haven't. And nobody else has said anything useful. So at this point, sure, let's start injecting the thing that's killing me, and at least it'll go faster, right? And so I kind of sat on the prescription for a while. Then I filled it at a local compounding pharmacy, which again sounded like BS to me because it was all out of pocket. And 15 of these injections were $100, and we didn't have $100 to spend on it. But, we asked our parents to help, and they did. And, I went to the pharmacy, and there was this nice guy who sat me down, and he showed me how to give myself an injection at home. And if you'll remember in the beginning of the story, I was terrified of needles, terrified. I kind of cried a little bit, and I said, okay, whatever. And they gave me the injection. They did my first one there at the pharmacy. And about an hour later, we got home, and suddenly my tremor stopped for the first time. I wasn't shaking. And then I was due for my next dose of pain meds, but I didn't have spinal pain for the first time in a long time. And my kids were playing, and I wanted to engage with them. I wanted to play with them, whereas I normally was too tired to do that. And I looked at my husband and I said, oh my God, it's vitamin B12. My vitamin B12 is low. There's something wrong with my vitamin B12. And I was so excited. It was the first time in forever that someone had suggested doing something, and I did it, and it made a difference. It made a real difference. I was so excited. I had hope for the first time. I couldn't understand it. I didn't get why my vitamin B12 levels kept going up, and everyone kept telling me take less vitamin B12, cut it out of everything, don't even take a multivitamin anymore because you have toxicity, and yet injecting it suddenly made a huge difference. I remember running around the house with my kids laughing and thinking, oh my God, I have joy again. This is it. This is my life. I have my life back. I found it. It's vitamin B12. I kept doing the injections. I had 3 amazing days, 3 days without pain for the first time in years because of these injections. And I joined a bunch of B12 groups on Facebook, and I, looked and I researched, and I was like, what the heck is going on? What the heck is going on? Most of these people in these groups had their vitamin B12 tested, and it was low. They got the shots, and then they felt better. Mine was high, sky high, weirdly high, and I got the injections, and I felt better. I couldn't make any sense of it. It didn't make sense to me. But these groups had warned me that you often get something called paradoxical worsening, which is where you have kind of this honeymoon period where you first start the injections, and then things get bad again. And, you know, they warn you, they tell you to expect this. And it did. I had 3 amazing days, and then I had a bunch of days of, you know, back to my normal symptoms, sometimes even a little bit worse. But I knew to expect this, and I knew it was normal.